Losers aren't winners. Today I have a special treat for you. My monthly, sometimes weekly, tomato can punch drunk update. If you don't know what a punch drunk tomato can is, I'll just give you a brief explanation. It comes from the boxing world, the fighting world. When I was a kid growing up, my dad would let me stay up for the Friday night fights on occasion. Good morning. Great. And I would get to watch, some of the alley fights, some of the Larry Holmes, Sugar Ray Leonard, even Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, and of course, the great Sugar Ray Leonard. The Duran-Leonard fights were two of my most memorable. So there's a saying in the fight game, punch drunk tomato cans, and it refers to a fighter who's had too many shots to the head. They can't focus, they can't think, they're deep as a puddle, they're sedated, they're lost mentally, and it's all because they've taken too many hits to the head. Punch drunk tomato cans, and a tomato can is somebody who blames it on somebody else, right? They've been the one taking the hits to the head, but they continue in the game long past their prime. So punch drunk tomato can is a term I use for husbands, fathers, pretend entrepreneurs, pretend businessmen who think they're winning when they're really losing. They're not present, they're not focused on their family, they're absent fathers, absent husbands, disconnected from their wives, disconnected from their children, and most importantly, disconnected from themselves. That's the biggest disconnect you see today. And, depression, anxiety, worry, stress, alcoholism, addiction to gambling, porn, cell phone addiction, you name it, it's all connected to disconnect with yourself. We are hardwired as human beings, to connect. We need to connect with other people. I don't care if you're an introvert like me or an extrovert. We are all hardwired to connect with other people. We want to be part of things. We want to be connected with other people, and we need to be connected with ourselves. When we're disconnected, when we live in our technology all day, when we don't leave our home, when we work in our pajamas, when we don't get out and speak to people, when we don't get out in the sunshine, when we don't get out in the fresh air, when our golden gut and our intuition and our connection with God is lost, well, that's where it's replaced with addiction. That's how a person becomes a cell phone junkie. That's how a person loses their connection with their son, their daughter, their queen. So it's all about connection with other people and yourself. That's where happiness and progress and significance and all the good things in life are found. So tomato can update. I had a young man who begged to join one of my masterminds when they started in December. And this young man, he's in business for himself. He's married, but he doesn't have children. And he was one of the last people to apply. And he said to me, he goes, Michael, when I talked to him, he said, Michael, I need to be in your mastermind this year because I want to do what you do. I want to get in the coaching game. I want to get in the consulting game. I want to work with other entrepreneurs and businessmen. I want to do what you do. in a different niche. And I said, okay, well, I always appreciate somebody who's going to serve other people. Consulting is a business, but it's also serving other people. You make money and you make a difference. So I like that part of it. I like the fact that he's, 40 years old and he's got his whole life in front of him. And he was in a situation where he could, pay the $10,000 to be part of the mastermind, which is the more they pay attention. This wasn't somebody joining for $97 a month. I mean, he was all in financially. When you write a check for 10 grand, or you write a check for 30 grand, or you write a check for $50,000 with no refunds and you had no payments, it's all in. You're all in. It's not a question of, well, we'll see if this works out. And that's why I do that. That's a lesson right there in itself. That's the reason when it comes to my champions and world builders is guys are all in. I don't offer warranties. I don't offer money back guarantees. You're either in for the year, you're not. I'm not going to have guys enter the brotherhood and leave the brotherhood whenever it suits them. I'm not going to have men come and go. I want guys that are all in. So that's the reason, good morning, that I make these men pay all up front. And secondly, it's the reason that I have no warranties or money back. You're all in. If you're struggling, make it work. But the more they pay attention. So this is one of the reasons that I have such a gifted group of men. My champions are a pleasure to work with. Those guys are all in as men, husbands, fathers, grandfathers, entrepreneurs, community leaders. They're all in because they're in a situation where they're working on not just success, but now they're working on significance. They're working on their legacy. My champions are working on their legacy. They've already made money. They're already continuing to make money, but they're at the point in their life where they want to be remembered. And they're at the point in their life where they're transitioning into a life of service. Service equals significance. So they want to build a legacy. My champions want to be remembered. They want to be remembered in their community. They want to be remembered by their grandkids and their great-grandkids and their great-great-grandkids. You can only do that by contribution. Contribution equals significance. Significance equals legacy. That's a writer-downer. Contribution, in other words, serving other people, equals significance. There's no other way. No service, no memory. No service, no memory, and no success. So contribution, serving others, equals significance, and significance equals your legacy. In other words, all the greats that walk this planet, whether they're in business or sports or the arts or great moms or great dads or great leaders, good morning, it's always been the same. It's their legacy is their contribution. So with my guys, my champions especially, it's about contribution. And with my world builders, it's about moving from top 5% to top 1%. My world builders are hungry. They remind me of myself 10 years ago, where they're hungry to get from making 100 grand to making 250. They're hungry to get from making 250 to 500,000. They're hungry to finally break the $1 million per year net income. I remember that being a focus. So they're more wealth driven. And then once you get to that level, you're like, okay, the money's great, but where's the significance? Where's the contribution? So they're two very unique and valuable groups, but I love working with both groups of men because they're all in. They've burned the ships and they're taking the island. Because they've paid, they pay attention. And because I charge so much for my men to be part of my masterminds, I get high quality men that are serious. I don't get the freebie seeker. I don't get the person who's, 75% in. I don't get any of that stuff. I get the man who's committed. He's got the skin in the game. He's told his wife he's going to invest this money, and there's a big difference. The more they pay you, the more they'll pay attention. So with that said, it's very rare that I run into a tomato can in my masterminds, very rare. But the data does say about 5% of any group, even your platinum accounts, your top, let's say 5% at your business, you're gonna have 5% of that top 5% that turn out to be lousy clients, whether they're disrespectful to your staff, whether they don't pay their bills, something about them. Okay, it's not that they can't pay, it's not that they don't have the money. They're clearly affluent, but they're still a lousy client, a tomato can, a punch-drunk tomato can. So this happens rarely, but with each group, not with a champion, but certainly with the world builders, you're gonna run into one or two. That's just the data. That's the analytics. So this week, Leanne got a resignation email. What's a resignation email? First of all, what's a resignation email? I mean, it's not like you're part of a job. It's not like you're working for us. But nonetheless, we never heard from this individual for the first, 4 months we've been running this mastermind. Hardly ever have we heard a thing. No homework sent in, no faxes, no emails, very rarely on the trainings. Every 2 weeks, every second Wednesday, we meet for 2 hours. Couldn't make it. And when he's there, of course, he's not there, right? He's there somewhere else. I can track the attention on a webinar, on a training. I can track. I don't know if they know that. Good morning. I don't know if they know that. A guy like that probably doesn't, but I can attract his level of attention on the webinar. So even though he's there sometimes, he's not there. He's off somewhere else, mentally, physically. He's checking his phone. He's everywhere but where he should be. And if he's there, he's late, which means he can't be trusted, right? So here's a guy in a mastermind who breaks all of our badass rules. He breaks all of our badass principles, yet he wants to work and help other people. So Leanne gets this resignation email the other day. And I'm like, what the fuck is a resignation email from a mastermind member? That's even a first for me. So I read this thing, and it's like a book. I wouldn't say it's like written by a 10-year-old. That would be a slap in the face to my daughter, Emery. She would look at that and she'd say, Daddy, tomato can. It's a block, an email written like a text, like some tomato can wrote with his thumbs. Like somebody who's so frazzled, so distracted, so lost that they can't even write anymore. They can't even think. They can't even sit at a keyboard. It was probably written on his dumb phone. He's probably driving in traffic, and he wrote me, Leanne, this email with his thumbs. That's about what Goofy did. I can tell by the punctuation. It looks like it's written by somebody who's suffering from manufactured mental illness. It looks like somebody, I don't want to insult kindergartens, because my daughter in kindergarten with some of her friends could write and print punctuation. They start to write cursive. So this dummy, he sends us this block of text written by his thumbs, punch drunk, rambling. And the whole gist of it at the end, because I don't read that stuff, if it's not faxed to me, I don't read it. Dummy's email, dummy's text, but I'll get a fax. That's why I make my guys fax me. What do you have to do when they fax? They have to sit down and think. They have to think. You don't write a fax with your thumbs. You don't write a fax when you're emotionally drunk. You don't come up with dumb ideas, punch drunk ideas when you have to sit down and write and think and then fax. So fax makes a person slow down. It makes them think, and therefore it saves my precious time and energy. So this was an rambling email about resigning from the mastermind. But let me dumb it down for you, as if he didn't dumb it down enough, is I'm spread too thin. Tell Michael I'm spread too thin, and I don't feel I'm giving back to the brotherhood, the brothers, so I'm gonna step aside. Well, when you pay in full and you're committed to 12 months of a team, basically you're in or you're a quitter. So let's just think about that for a second, because I love to tear apart the language of a tomato can. The reason, okay, a tomato can is a tomato can, whether it's a kid, a teenager, whether it's a woman, whether it's a man, whether it's a vendor, whether it's a friend, whatever it is, a tomato can's a tomato can. But they're not used to people critiquing what they actually say. A tomato can is full of shit. Everything that comes out of their mouth is a cliche, right? Let me give you some tomato can language for you, okay? It is what it is. Living the dream. Gotta regroup. Or this guy here, stretched too thin. Stretched too thin. And it's all burying yourself in BS, right? Which a punch drunk tomato can does. So I don't let this go in terms of, I said to Leanne, I said, what is this guy trying to say? Like, what is he trying to communicate through this email? And she couldn't figure it out either. But just think of the lack of thinking. First of all, resigning from something that really you can't resign from, nor do you have to. I mean, it's a simple situation. You paid $10,000 to be part of this group. All you have to do is attend a 2-hour training every second Wednesday. That's 2 trainings a month. 2 trainings a month. That's it. 4 hours a month. 4 hours a month with me, plus a little bit of homework, which you can do quickly in your sleep if you have a functioning brain. And this guy, I love it. Such a liar to himself and such a liar to the people in his life, right? If you're a tomato can, you're a liar. You lie to yourself, you lie to the man in the mirror, you lie to your wife, you lie to your children, you lie to your employees. You can't stand yourself, so you lie and pretend that you're winning when you're losing. You don't have the balls to ask for help. You don't have the guts to make the changes. You don't have the mental toughness to live the right way. So this guy, I'm just like, okay, he's spread too thin. Let's address that one. Marc-Andre nailed this one good the other day. I make all my mastermind members send me their cell phone usage screenshot. So all you do is you can do it even on this broken iPhone. I can track my 7-day cell phone usage. I can track it, right? Even I can do it. Tech Dinosaur, MJM can even do it. And I can see how much time have I spent on this screen over the last 7 days. What's the average time I've spent on big tech, on this cell phone, on this iPhone? And my time is about 1 hour 17 a day. Now you may be, okay, Michael, I thought it would be less. That includes me shooting a 35 to 61 minute video. Every damn day, I get up every damn day. I'm not spread too thin. I get up every damn day and I shoot a video for you. This one right here is at 1954. So that includes my iPhone time. So 60 minutes a day, let's say. 45 to 60 minutes a day. So if I'm averaging, and I've sent it to Leanne a couple times, an hour and 17 a day, that means I'm spending almost no time on this phone. In other words, I'm doing what I said, good morning, and I don't touch my phone until at least 11 in the morning. I don't touch my phone until after 4 p.m. at night. I lock it away in the lockbox. So I'm only on my phone for 15 minutes a day. Texting, returning a text, talking to my parents. I call my parents on this phone. Krista will send me a message from the grocery store. That kind of stuff. Like simple stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm using it as a servant. This is my servant. I use it to shoot these videos for you. And then the rest of the time, I barely touch it. I never take my phone anywhere. It drives my wife crazy. I never take it when I go to pick up Emery at school. I never take it when I go to play tennis. I never take it when I go anywhere. And I just leave it at home. So I've done that for a good solid 20 years now, where I do not carry a cell phone. So anyways, guess what this guy's screen time was when he sent it in? And admittedly, a lot of my guys, like, they had to improve in this area. Some of my guys, good morning. Some of my guys were at 6 hours. Some of my guys were at 4 hours a day. Some of my guys were at 3 hours a day, which is crazy. You're just destroying your mental health. You're just annihilating your prefrontal cortex. You're just pouring gasoline on mental health issues like depression and anxiety and worry and stress, and not to mention the delayed consequences, like what's coming down the road for you or me, because we're on a screen all the time. So this guy, believe it or not, was 11 and a half hours a day. That's not easy to do. This phone tracks you're only when you're active on your phone. So he cares. So a person who is on their phone for 11 and a half hours a day, on a Sunday, 11 and a half hours, on a Monday, 11 and a half hours, on Christmas Day, 11 and a half hours, on Easter Sunday, 11 and a half hours. That's the average. So there's some days he's probably on that phone 13, 14 hours on the screen, actively playing his thumbs out. Because if he's at 11 and a half average, most, even tomato cans, slow down a little bit on a Sunday, slow down a little bit on a Saturday. So that means during the week, he's likely on his phone 13, 14 hours a day, engaged in texting, shoot videos, porn for sure, gambling for sure, Facebook, Twitter, Instagrunt for sure, all of that stuff. You got to be dedicated to toxic poison. You got to be dedicated to watching the news. You got to be a dedicated bitch for Steve Jobs. You got to be a dedicated Tim Cook big tech bitch to come up with an 11 and a half hour a day screenshot. So from week one, when I made guys do this, what measure gets done, right? So it's personally shaming. I believe in personally shaming. That's the type of coach I am. I put the sales figures up on the wall. I rank every single employee. If you don't like it, I don't give a fuck. Go work somewhere else. This is what we're doing. I've done it with hockey. I've graded my players every practice, every game. I grade my sales team every day, every week, every month. I grade my service team every day, every month, my receptionists. And if you don't like that culture, I don't fucking care. Go. This is a democracy. This is not a democracy. I'm not running a soup kitchen. I'm not running a halfway house. I'm running a dictatorship dedicated to maximum profit. When I have a business, I'm running a dictatorship that's dedicated to maximum profit. Not a soup kitchen, not a halfway house, not not a place for therapy, none of that stuff, not even a democracy, a dictatorship. My championship hockey team, dictatorship. McLean Insurance, dictatorship. Father and son barbershop, dictatorship. Badass millionaire brotherhood, dictatorship. My real estate portfolio management, dictatorship. Just on and on and on. Dictatorship, never democracy, never playing the role of a soup kitchen halfway house. I'm there to make maximum money in minimum time. Nothing loftier than that. Nothing loftier than that. So this punch-drunk tomato can doesn't improve, right? So my guys that had 5 hours or 3 hours, they get it down to an hour and a half. They're embarrassed, right? You're embarrassed when you send in your screen time the first time. You're embarrassed. You're like, oh God, 5 hours, that's embarrassing. Or what will Michael think? Or 3.5 hours. But that's the point. It makes you smarten up and become better. It wakes you up. It says it shines a light on your weakness, that you are an addict, that you are addicted to this technology, and you simply pivot and change the next day. You're like, okay, I can't handle this on my own, like any addiction, so I'm going to put in the parameters, the rules and the habits and the boundaries that stop this nonsense. So now, guys will shut off their phone till 10 in the morning. Guys will shut off their phone at 6 o'clock when they get home. Guys will leave their phone home on date night. Guys will, leave their phone at home when they go for a walk with their children. That kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, 5 hours becomes 3 hours. 3 hours a day becomes 2 hours. 2 hours becomes an hour and a half. And now your phone is a servant. No longer are you a slave to it. It's your servant, not a slave. Big, big difference. But see, a tomato can doesn't learn, right? A tomato can already knows everything. A tomato can just nods their head and continues to watch their fantasy football stuff. So 11.5 hours a day, no improvement ever. In the 6, 7, 8 weeks we've been doing this, 9 weeks, I forget how long it is, you don't see any improvement, right? Goofy already knows. So, you're on your phone 13 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 11 hours a day. Man, oh man, it's hard to not be stretched thin. So that's my response to the old, I'm Michael, tell Michael I don't have time to be part of the mastermind anymore because I'm stretched thin. Well, like Marc Andre said, holy fuck. If I had a daily cell phone usage of 11.5 hours, plus the 8 hours that I'm supposed to be sleeping, man, oh man, I'd be stretched thin too. You just imagine, this is a guy that falls asleep with his cell phone on his face or in his hand. His sleep would just be the worst too, because you're on a screen in your bedroom, you're on a screen until you finally black out, and then you start your day when you wake up to take a piss, and you're on your screen. This is a guy that checks his phone when he takes a piss in the morning. This is a guy that checks his phone, jumps in the shower, jumps out of the shower to check his latest Bing or text or whatever you want to call it. This guy is fully committed to being big text bitch. And he is. So that's what life is, being stretched too thin. The second thing is, I don't feel I'm giving back. I don't feel I'm giving back to the community, to the brotherhood. And I'm like, no fucking shit. You don't feel like you're giving back. Let's look at your behavior, not what you talk about. You're supposed to be on the trainings for 2 hours. You're supposed to block out 2.5 hours every second Wednesday. That's it. Just 2.5 hours every second week. Anybody and everybody can do that. I don't care how busy you pretend to be. Doesn't matter. You can be there. I got guys with $40 million companies, $30 million companies who invest 2.5 hours every Wednesday in my champions mastermind. But punch drunk, too thin, he can't manage. So first of all, he can't be there. So a lot of the trainings, he can't be there. Oh, I'll watch the replay. Like fuck you watch the replay, okay? You watch women take their clothes off. You watch somebody's adult daughter take their clothes off. You fucking gamble. You play fantasy football. You live literally in a toxic, sedated world. You think you're gonna take 2 hours and you're gonna re-watch or a training. You're just, once again, a liar, an absolute liar. I cannot stand lying. So instead of coming out and saying, you know, Michael, I'm just screwing up, man. I gotta get my head screwed on straight here. I'm addicted to technology. I've lost my way. I've lost my connection with myself. No. I'm stretched too thin and I don't have time. So he doesn't show up on time. What's my rule about punctuality that I teach my daughter? If you can't show up on time, you can't be trusted. Period. I don't care if it's a printer. I don't care if it's a guy who cleans your pool. I don't care if it's you, an employee. I don't care if it's your sister or a friend. If they can't show up early, they can't be trusted. Anybody in my world that's late is gone. Now, if a person does show up, a hockey player shows up, they don't play in the game. They sit in the crowd. I bag skate them for an hour and a half, and then they put on their suit and they sit in the crowd with the fans. Same with barbers and real estate people and employees. If I'm gonna be somewhere at 1 o'clock, you sure as fuck better be there at 12:45. My dad has never been late in 95 years. I've never seen him in business in 65 years. I've never seen him working with him for 17 years. I've never seen him late, not 1 minute. Not 1 minute. Not 1 minute late. And this punch drunk tomato can can't be on a Zoom call at 11 in the morning at 10:59. Can't be there. If he is there, he's late. So that's number one. He can't be trusted. He has told me and the brothers, by not being able to be there, that whatever he's doing tells us what? It tells us that's more important. When you're late to pick up your kids, when you're sitting there on your phone and your wife's trying to bid for connection and you're on your laptop or you're thinking about something else, truly at the end of the day, it's not you just can't be trusted. It's also the fact that what you're doing, the message is more important than them. That email is more important than your queen. That text is more important than your son or daughter. Like, think about that for a minute. Just think about that. When you're disconnected with technology, when you're connected and you're on that cell phone junkie phone, and your wife makes a bid for connection, or your husband makes a bid, or your children or grandchildren make a bid for connection, or whatever it is, you're taking that bid and you're throwing it back in their face. And you're saying, hey, this email is more important than you. This ESPN video is more important to you. My fantasy football is more important to you. Looking at porn videos is more important than you. My gambling, my poker is more important than you. My chess game here online is more important than you. So when you throw bids for connection back into people's faces, don't be surprised when you lose your connection with those people and you lose what? Connection with yourself. And then that's where you get into manufactured mental illness. A disconnected man is an addicted man, is an alcoholic, is a drug addict, is a porn addict, is you just go down, a gambling addict, all the way down. Disconnected from yourself and the people that matter most. So this guy is disconnected from himself, disconnected from the people in his world that matter most. Can't be on time. Secondly, when he gets there, so I have a home office that I work in that I cannot be disturbed in. Think about that. Like, the house is empty, I'm down usually in the basement, or I'm up in the loft, or I'm in town. I build what I call success environments, right? This is a big one, a success environment. So when I do my weekly mastermind trainings, or I write my newsletter, or I'm writing each day, I'm not typing when I'm taking a piss at a urinal. I'm not a pretend entrepreneur. I'm serious. Like I sit down with my MacBook, I bolt the door shut, I don't have my cell phone with me, and I set a timer and I write for an hour. That's called success environment. I work in a place with lots of sunshine, lots of books, lots of literature, lots of fresh air, and that's where I write. That's called success environment. I do the same thing for my trainings. I go in, I don't sit on a laptop at Starbucks and do my trainings or my writings. I sit down, I sit my ass down in a success environment, my home office, where I'm 100% focused on the job. And what do? I do the job. I show up and I do the job. I don't have any interruptions. I don't have my wife knocking on the door. I don't have my phone going bing. None of it. I'm doing one thing. I'm making sure that I'm focused on the mastermind guys, and that's it. So with that said, very, very important that he doesn't do any of that. So when he shows up late for the training, you can just imagine, right? Another thing that Marc-Andre can track is how are they consuming the training, right? So you have the pro who's in their home office. They go home. They don't even, like David Linton is a pro. Bill Gaw is a pro. Paul Nolte is a pro. Stephen Ivanko is a pro. These guys isolate themselves for the training. In other words, they leave their business and they go home to their home office. Like David Linton leaves his 23 employees, his flooring company, and he goes home to his beautiful home office. And he locks the door and he focuses for 2.5 hours. And he takes physical notes and he's working off a big PC. I work off a MacBook Pro. But this tomato can, of course, not only does he show up late for trainings, but Marc-Andre's like, he's on a cell phone. So here he is watching a PowerPoint, a training that he paid $10,000 for, and he's watching it on his phone when he takes a piss in a urinal. He's probably at a sports bar getting ready for lunch. But you know, Michael, I'm spread too thin. Imagine trying to be a serious entrepreneur and husband and father, and you're watching $10,000 trainings when you're driving, or you're taking a leak in the urinal, or you're out walking around. Like, he's just not there. That's called manufactured mental illness, stretched too thin. So it's no wonder, to answer his question, it's no wonder I can't give back, Michael. I haven't been able to give back. I haven't been able to give back to the brotherhood. So my question for that is, really, how have you reached out? Have you been active in the locker room? That's our non-big tech forum. It's nothing to do with big tech. It's where we post questions and videos and support each other. It's a badass locker room. It's hosted by school. And also, have you introduced yourself to the other men? Have you filled out your profile? Have you shared stuff on the locker room forum, like I do almost every second day? When you come up with an idea, do you share it with the other brothers, like a Bill Gaw or like a Tom Burns or a Jeff Dean? Do you share? Do you share like a Rob Boyd shares? Do you share like a Brad Neil Hauser does? Do you share? So no, none. It's just taker energy, right? As the great Joe Polish says, you either have taker energy or giver energy. Tomato cans have taker energy. What's in it for me? What can this do for me? What can this mastermind? What can I steal from this? What can I take from this? What can I rob from this? What can I take and use as my own? They're swipe and deploy guys. They're never ever thinking of giving first, right? It's all, what can I take? And it's called, like Polish says, there's giver energy and there's taker energy. I fill my masterminds with giver energy. But from time to time, you're going to run into a tomato can with taker energy. And so he gives nothing. And he's actually a little bit proud of it, right? I haven't had time to give. I haven't had time to serve other people. It's just been such a tough year, Michael. With with the White House and the economy, and I'm like, no, I don't know. What I said, a badass world builder makes their own economy, so no, I don't know. The president, it's irrelevant to me. Biden, Trump makes no difference to me. Canada, US makes no difference to me. Economy, I make my own economy. Insurance, real estate, coaching, barber shop, makes no difference to me. So no, I don't really understand what you're talking about. Downside, winter's coming, doesn't make any difference to me. Just means I can play more offense. I can swing for the fences even more. I can be more aggressive. So he's completely lost, right? So what does a loser do when they're lost? They bail. They pull the cord as soon as they can, right? The other thing I'll share before I go here, I'm almost home, is we're doing hot seats, right? So we're doing these incredible hot seats where each member does a PowerPoint and they talk about their life, their marriage, their children, their business. They talk about their badass world. And all of us, including myself, listen to the presentation. It's about an hour. And then we give them feedback and they ask questions like, how can I do this better? How can I do this better? What would I be able to do with my marketing here? How could I improve this? That's how winners talk, right? That's how winners think. That's how winners behave. Not this guy, man. Not this guy. He's scared shitless. Liars are always scared shitless, like con men. He doesn't like the reflection in the mirror, so he hates himself, right? So we've been doing these for a few weeks and they're awesome. Like Jeff Dean did an outstanding job. Rob Boyd did an outstanding job. Brad did an outstanding job. And so, next up, right? Next up. Well, this scares the shit out of a tomato can because they've just been hanging around. I call them lurkers too, eh? They've been lurking on the trainings. They've been lurking in the locker room. They haven't been contributing anything. They're lurkers. There's learners and there's lurkers. And a guy like that's a lurker, right? He shows up late, if at all. He sees what's going on, sees if there's anything he can take. And then, he's in and he's out and he's gone. Same thing in the locker room. We see that, a guy's in there, but he doesn't post anything. He doesn't answer any questions. He doesn't share anything of value. He just lurks. And we know he's in there. He's too dumb to know that we know, right? So lurking. So these hot seats they're the end for them, right? Because he's like, oh, fuck, if I'm next, what would I report? I haven't done anything. I'm 3 months into this and I've done jack shit. Or I can't even write a PowerPoint. I don't have time to put a presentation. Jeff and Brad and Rob, theirs were so great and I'm just full of shit. That's basically what he's saying to himself, right? So this is why you lose guys. You lose the bottom 5% at this time. It's not all the other stuff. It's not that they're stretched thin. Lie. It's not that they're not giving back. Lie. Well, they aren't giving back. That's true. They're takers, not givers. But also, their balls are against the wall, right? Because every 2 weeks now, I ask somebody, boom, Tom Burns, you're up. And then Tom has 2 weeks to get ready for the PowerPoint training. So it's intense, right? And it takes a long time Jeff Dean put probably 10 days into his. Brad put 10 days into his. Rob off and on, they put 10 days into it. And it shows, right? But the tomato can, he's like, fuck, I'm not doing that. And that's where they pull the pin. That's where they phone it. They were phoning it in. They were mailing it in. But now that they're called on the carpet, it's accountability, right? That's what I promise. That's what I promise when I sell this, right? Is we all need accountability. We all need a coach. I have a coach. You have a coach. We all need a coach. So when the rubber meets the road, they're no damn good, right? Pressure makes you better or worse. And pressure makes a tomato can worse. Pressure makes you better or worse. right? I taught that to my athletes. I teach that to my employees. Pressure makes you better or worse. So it makes a lot of guys worse, and it makes a tomato can like this worse, right? Because he's like, oh my God, I'd be so embarrassed. I don't want to bother everybody. I can never do this. Quitters quit, right? It's a habit. He's had that ingrained into him since a child, so quitting comes naturally. He quits everything. If you quit this kind of stuff, you quit everything. So I was amused where he said he wanted to be a coach and consultant. What would you teach? Where would your authenticity come from? Where would your integrity and credibility come from? You couldn't teach anybody fuck all. The only thing you could teach is how to quit, how to take the easy path, how to sell out on your family, how to sell out on yourself. That's all that those guys could teach. That's another warning in this 45-minute video, is there's a lot of information. We live in the so-called information age. I disagree with that. I say we live in the entertainment age, but nonetheless, we do live in the information age. There's been more information than ever. Dead ass wrong information. Most information is dead wrong. Okay, so you better know that when you're on social media, when you're listening to the news, when you're burying yourself in these toxic forums, like it's all wrong, right? The China virus, all wrong. Marriage advice, all wrong. Marketing advice, all wrong. Fitness advice, all wrong. Nutrition advice, all wrong. Money advice, all wrong. Don't ever listen to anybody that's not doing better than you and that you trade places with. I get my financial advice from Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, 92 and 99, two of the wealthiest men in America. That's who I get my advice from. Not from some local financial guy who's got, $100,000 in the bank. I get my financial advice from two of the richest men, 92 years old, 99 years old, Buffett and Munger. Same with my marketing advice. I get my direct response marketing advice from Dan Kennedy. Period. I've been a student. I've been a mentor. He's been a mentor to me. That's who I get it from. The best of the best. So most advice and most information is dead wrong, and you better understand that. You better understand, and you better take information from people. Like, I only talk about things that I've won a championship level at and that I'm still winning at. The day I'm not winning anymore is the day these videos are over, the newsletter is over, the telegrams are over, and I stop doing the masterminds. If I can't do it anymore at a top 1% level, then I won't do it. I'm not going to be a pretend expert. I'm not going to sell fantasy as reality. The thing is I am a proven champion in what I teach, business and marketing. I don't teach yoga. I don't teach meditation. I don't teach what my wife teaches. I know jack shit about that stuff. I don't talk about, how to build a bodybuilder's, muscle. I don't know that stuff. So I don't teach it. I know hockey, I know marketing, I know mental toughness. The only things I talk about are things that I've been proven at a championship 1% level. And I'm still doing them, by the way. If I'm not married, if I'm not raising children, if I'm not, walking and shooting videos, if I'm not spending millions of dollars, if I'm not building $1 million company every day, then I'm not going to teach it. So there's a lot of information out there, but most of it's wrong. So remember that. And this guy's a perfect example. He's going into consulting. What the fuck would he teach that isn't dangerous? What the hell could he share with somebody? And there's people out there naive enough to give a guy like that money, a $97 or $200. I'm going to help you with your website, and he steals some of my stuff and pawns it off as his own. But you know what? It's dangerous, right? Because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's dangerous because he's a taker. He's dangerous because he was never a serious student. So that's it for today. That's the update. I mean, I don't even know where I'm going with that. Other than that was incredible therapy for Yours Relentless. I really enjoyed that. My dad would say, oh, Michael, keep these things to yourself. And my mom's like, balls to the wall. She's like, I'm like my mom, right? Jesus, you know exactly where you stand with Eva McLean. It's just incredible. I'll end with a great story about my mom. I get my toughness from my mom, right? My mom has a mean streak, the width of the state of Florida. And it's a good thing, right? Clear as kind. You always knew. In all my mom's life of raising 3 kids, my brother, my sister, and I, my mom never once called the office and said, come on home. My mom never used the threat when we were children. You know the threat? I'm going to call your dad. My mom would have never said that. She handled her own fucking business. We weren't afraid of our dad coming home. We were afraid of our mom in the kitchen. She used to rattle the drawer with the knives. She used to rattle the drawer with the horsewhip. She never used any of that stuff. She just rattled the door. But she wasn't some cupcake who said, "Oh, your dad's gonna come home, or I'm gonna call your dad." Trust me, the Iron Lady handled her own business. We used to call her the Iron Lady in reference to Margaret Thatcher behind her back. Oh, here comes the Iron Lady. I was so blessed to be raised by an alpha female like that. Mean, tough, fucking iron. And a nice person to go along with it. Cared about people, so she tells them the truth. She cares about people, so she tells them the truth. And she's the CEO of our family. I do power skating with the kids at school when I'm home in the early winter, and a lot of the other school parents, Emery's age group, so there'll be other mums and dads there picking up their kids skating, and I coach the skating from 4 to 5, so I'm coming off the ice. And always some of the parents of the kids I'm coaching will come up to me and they'll say, because my mom and dad come and watch, right? They come and watch Emery, they come and watch me, something for them to do at the rink. They're 89 years old. And my mom will be down there right at ice level, talking to me, waving to me, the whole thing, right? Totally connected mom. And she'll be down there talking to the other mums, the other Emery's, friends' mums. And every single time a mom will come up to me and say, "Michael, I just met your mom. What a kind, what a wonderful lady." And I'll always say to the person, I'll say, "Oh no, that's not my mom. That's an old person trying to get into heaven." And Goofy, who I say that to, is just the smoke's coming out of their ears. I'm like, "Oh no, that's not my mom." I said, "That's an old lady trying to get into heaven." That's an old Bill Cosby line, by the way. It's so much fun, but it's so true. My mom is such a gentle, kind, nanny, grandma kind of person now, and people that meet her, I'm like, oh my God. I'm sure Margaret Thatcher was kind and gentle during the end too. I don't know. But I don't know where I was going with that crazy story about the Iron Lady. The Iron Lady's here right now. We flew my mom and dad in, so we're enjoying time with the Iron Lady. She's not the Iron Lady anymore. She's like spending time. She loves Emery and Emery loves her. So that's what this 8 days is. They're here for 8 days. If you want some help, buy my book below, nobullbook.com. You still have a few days or a few hours to get my newsletter for March. Badassletter.com, badassletter.com. I'll send you one of these badass t-shirts for free, badassletter.com. You want to be around non-tomato cans, apply badassworldbuilders.com, badassworldbuilders.com. That's my 12-month digital mastermind every second Wednesday. I promise I'll keep kicking out the tomato cans. If they don't resign because they're spread too thin and they can't serve others by taking, I'll kick them out myself. I'll kick the trash to the curb, and I promise to never let it back in. I don't cater to quitters, and I don't let the trash back in once I've taken it to the curb. That's one of my rules, 25 rules in my book. It served me very well. Just remember, men, losers aren't winners. Losers aren't winners. Fill your world with winners. Fill your world with champions. Fill your world with elite men and women that are driven, relentless, and generous. Fill your world with winners. Winners aren't losers, and losers aren't winners. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that'll change your life. Be relentless.